Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and today we're going to build a new log deck that hopefully makes my firewood process much more efficient. Behind me is the new Easton Made Ultra, which has a 4-second cycle time, and that's the fastest cycle time of any hydraulic splitter on the market. It's a fantastic splitter at a pretty affordable price when you're looking at commercial units. The only downside to this splitter is that it doesn't have a log lift. And when I introduced the splitter, I said there's a couple ways to make it not matter that you don't have a log lift. One is this other splitting attachment that I've shown before that lets you split wood using the mini skid steer and not picking up the big rounds. The other option is to build a deck that holds your logs and lets you cut them into rounds without the rounds falling on the ground, so that you can efficiently cut up a bunch of logs and then just transfer those over to this, all working at waist height. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish today. Now I want to give credit where credit's due to 2 other YouTube channels that had this idea and are doing it first. And that's the great thing in my mind about YouTube. When one person has an idea and everybody sees it, and if it's a good idea, you're going to see it again, but the next person will modify it, and the next person will modify it, and that's how we end up with more efficient processes. I was already trying to come up with an idea for how to build a log deck. I saw Sawing with Sandy do it, and a lot of my viewers told me, go watch Sandy's video, and I thought his is fantastic. Let's see if I can do it better. So I started to talk to my good friend Lucas from Peaks Peak Hobby Homestead, and he built one last week, and I like his design just a little bit better in some ways. So now I'm going to make my own version. If you want to see their videos, I'll put links in the description of this video where you can watch Sandy and Lucas build their log decks. Anyway, that's enough introduction. Let's get to work. So the first thing we need to do is cut legs that support the weight of the logs and that the table is built on. So that's going to come out of these 6x6s, and we're going to cut those at 32 inches high. So our table is going to be 32 inches plus the thickness of the top deck. All right, that's progress, and I like to make progress. So what we're going to do now is make some legs to stabilize the base, and these are going to attach to our vertical 6x6s with lag bolts. Now our legs here, I'm going to go across this way. So I did not buy these lag bolts for this project. My dad brought those and said, I've had these laying around a long time, seeing if you had a use for them. I said, well, I always need lag bolts. So we're gonna go ahead and use them for this, but we don't have enough to do the whole thing. And I think the more important weight bearing will be at the top, because these are setting on this. So nothing's going to be pushing down on this. Well, it will have strength when I go to pick it up with pallet forks. But what I've got here is exterior construction screws with T20 head, 3-inch long. I'm going to try putting 3 per joint as opposed to what I've been doing. Tell me about these screws, if you guys know more than me. Like a typical screw doesn't have the shear force. That a nail through here is not going to break off near as easily as a normal screw when you've got force that holds the 2 pieces together, and a screw's better for that, but a nail is better for shear force. So I'm wondering how these construction screws compare. Now it's just a matter of repeating that process all the way around. As you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3 sets of legs, and I'm going to tie all those together with 2x6s at the bottom, 2x6s at the top. I definitely should have been using an impact socket here, but I just can't get over how hard it is to run anything into this hardwood. I was stripping out bits later when I used screws, and this impact struggled on the lag bolts. So the main frame is done. I've added these beams here for cross support. Our legs down here stick out a little bit past for stability. We're primarily fastened with these large lag bolts that are 6 or 8 inches long. The 6x6 is vertical, hardwood, rough cut. This thing should be rock solid. I don't think weight will be a problem on the base. Now I just have to build a top that matches it. So as soon as I got the base structure done, I had to stop and take a break for about 4 hours because my son had a high school baseball game. And it was a little bit, without being dramatic, it was a little bit of an emotional night because baseball's kind of been his life for the last 12 years. And this was senior night. He's a senior. This was his last, not his last baseball game because they have playoffs and they'll play until they lose. So, but this was kind of an end of an era for us. So that's where I've been the last 4 hours. Now we're going to finish the work here. I've got to cut all these to length. What we're going to do is on top of this base that we've already built, we're going to build a 5-foot long table, the 10-foot wide, 5-foot long. With a 10-foot wide table, I can do, well, obviously 10-foot long logs, but actually you can hang 16 inches off the end on each end, so that's an extra 32 inches. So another 3 foot. So basically a 13-foot log will comfortably sit on here. And even if you're longer, you would just have to take measurements and then you'd have to pick them up off the ground like any other time when you're cutting rounds. Now Lucas made his 5 foot And I thought, well, is that even wide enough? Wouldn't we need it bigger than that? So, because you could only put 5 logs up there that are each a 12-inch diameter, maybe 4, because realistically they'll have a little bit of twist to them. Then I started thinking about how much weight you have in 5 logs that are 12 inches diameter. And I'd have 5,000 pounds put on this, and I don't want to do that. So really 4 foot of table would be enough. And I expected this to look a lot bigger. It looks tiny. Lucas made his 5 feet, 60 inches. Mine was 55 inches. Another reason to want to make this smaller is if you've only got 1 log on here, or you put a bunch of logs on here and then you roll those logs down towards you, at some point, if this is hanging way off the middle, and the log's down here, it's going to tip it over. These can't really be that much longer than your base. So our design here is that each firewood round will sit on 2 of these 2x4s. And I know they're not exactly 2x4, it doesn't matter really. But the idea is 1 round sits on 2 of these. So they'll be 12 inches apart. So we're going to put this one at one end of our rack. Then the second one will come over 12 inches. Then we'll leave a 4-inch gap, then come over 12 inches and stagger them like that all the way across. So we have all these gaps that are designed for making your cuts. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get our 16 inches marked all the way down. 16, I got 32, 48. Now that I got all those slats attached, we could set logs on here, but the problem is they might roll off. So this is what the end of the rack looks like. The idea now is to put something on the ends of these to keep that round from rolling off. But you only want it here and here, you can't have it in this gap. So what I'm actually going to do is screw this down all the way down, put a screw on every board, and then just cut out this section with the chainsaw. Instead of cutting a bunch of boards to length and then screwing the small boards down, just screw the whole thing down and then cut out the excess. So I feel really good about that. The idea here is I don't have to bend down to pick these rounds up. My log splitter is right here. I roll them off and straight onto the splitter. So it's a simple little build project that is going to do what I need it to do. Thanks to my friends Sandy from Sawing with Sandy and Lucas from Peaks Peak Hobby Homestead for giving me the build up to put together the same kind of log deck. I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.